This video is brought to you by Smart DNS Proxy, link in the description. G'day, welcome back. I'd especially like to welcome my new subscribers and I hope you enjoy the content of my channel. If you missed my last video, the little 3D printed ER32 collets, link up there now, go and watch that first, then come back and watch this one. If you did miss that one, go and have a look because it was a little surprising just how well those things work. Alright, so at the end of that video I suggested I wanted to make a travel steady for my lathe. So let's head on over to the workbench and see what I've got to make it out of. Over there. Well, alrighty, this evening I still feel like crap. I decided to get in the car and go out and visit the scrapyard. Picked up these two pieces of plate, one for to make the travelling rest out of, and one for my next project that I've got in mind, for the lathe again, and a couple of bits of round bar just to replenish my round bar stock. I think this is a bit of reinforcing steel, judging by the print up the side of it here. Seems to be fairly good quality stuff, that. All for the princely sum of 382 baht and 50 satang, which is the one satang is 1/10 of a baht. I don't know why they bother with them anymore. Anyway, so one of these will get turned into a travelling steady, and the other one, like I said, will get used for something else I got in mind on the lathe. It's got to do with threading, and it's something that's just occurred to me that I don't have a lot of ways around, but I've got an idea of how to fix it. But anyway, so I'll get in and work out exactly what I need to get out of one of these to make the steady rest. I think it's way too long. I'll just chop the top off it. I also need to narrow it down, so I do know that it only needs to be 75mm wide across the bottom. These got to be 100 plus, these things. Yeah, 125. So probably have to narrow it up a bit too. Even for the other job I've got in mind, that will need to be narrowed down to 100mm. Anyway, so I'll work a few things out and I'll come back to you. Alrighty, so I sat in and drew this up on FreeCAD to make sure I had it right before I go chopping up this piece of steel too much. There are two things I can see straight off the bat need to be rectified. These two holes should line up with what's in my cross slide, but I've got them too far apart, and literally right beside these bits are the weight covers, or the retaining plates for the wipers. So that's, I don't really like the way that is. So what I might do is just extend it out a bit further and then undercut the bottom a little bit so it'll come over the top of those covers. It'll still give me a nice decent sized area on the top to for the head of the bolt. These I hope will be okay. So to arrive at this point here, what I did was I measured from the top of the plate up to the centre of the turning tool that's in there at the moment, and then added 10mm to it. Although I think I might add 20. I don't know, we'll find out. I'll fit it up and make sure that this is right. The reason I printed it, and this is like nearly hollow, it's only got a 15% fill because I didn't want to waste too much material doing it, and just to make sure that it was right. Now I've got that set at 16mm, those two there. Might even print up a couple of little pieces to put in there because there are two threads in here, so I could bolt a piece in there. Print up a couple of bits to fit in there and just to see how it sits against a piece of material. And once we get it all sorted out, we'll chop this up and make it a steel one. Alrighty, so this is where prototyping on this 3D printer becomes worth its weight in gold, I reckon. I've got centre height right this way for that one, and that'll slide in and out of there, no problems. But there's, that's nearly all the way back. So that's a piece of 20mm. That's a McPherson strut into that one's 20mm. But this one here is about, I'm just trying to work it out with the rule. It's about 7.5 or 8mm. Back that way is where it needs to go. So all of this needs to be moved back. Maybe even a bigger hole in the centre. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to. Well, I would like to be able to do bigger things, but anyway, I might go big. I made the diameter of the hole in the centre there is 40mm. I might need to go out to maybe 50 or something, just so I can get something, maybe 1-inch stuff in there. But anyway, so it's back to the drawing board. Outside of that, it all looks pretty good. Bolts on here okay. Like I said, that you can see here where I'll have to make that, put an undercut in there of about 6-7mm. I'd have to machine the back out of it. If I bring it out here a bit more, machine the 7mm off the back so it'll come out over the top of here. Well, those bolts are pretty much right on the edge of there, so maybe it's okay the way it is. But anyway, so back to the drawing board and work out something else. I don't know if I'll reprint it. I probably should, just to be doubly sure. Before I chop that bit of steel up, make a freaking mess of it. But anyway, back to the drawing board. Alrighty, so I reworked the drawing and reprinted it, but I still don't have it right. And after thinking about it for a moment or two, I think I know just where I went wrong. I said I had to move this across 7.5 or 8 mil, but I also increased the size of the hole in the centre to 50 mil, and I added another 5 mil for that. So that's what's happened there. But I need to move all of this back over here, 8 mil again, back this way. I'm pretty sure everything is where it needs to be now. So I can go ahead and turn that lump of steel into something that looks like that. Alrighty, so I ended up modifying the drawing again because these two weren't equal, and this one was 10 mil wide and that one, so I narrowed it down. Moved that bloody thing, it's still not in the right spot. But I've decided I've come up with a way to get that exactly where it needs to be over the top. So what I'm going to do is I've clamped it down to there, got it cleaned up with this edge, is pretty straight. Been flame cut, but it's pretty good. So I'm just going to go around it with a felt pen, scribe it so I can see roughly where the shape of it, and then clean it up and clean the edges up in the mill. Then I'm going to drill these 2 holes in here and then bolt it to the mill. Then I'm going to put a drill in, or I might put a center drill in the chuck, and then put a drill mark here in the center so I know exactly where the center of the damn thing is. And then I'll scribe a line down to that, up and down there, so I know where it is. Then I'll whack a bloody hole saw through the middle and finish cutting out the bits that need to be cut out. Initially I'm going to cut this completely rectangular because that is not as wide there as it is down here. And if I cut it that width there, it'll have a hard time gripping it. So I'll just cut this square to start with, a rectangular, and then we'll get it in the mill, clean it up, and then we'll get these 2 holes drilled into the lathe. Alrighty, so I've got this all cut out. I decided to cut that bit out of the corner there while I was out because it won't affect anything, because it'll hang out beyond the end anyway while I'm cleaning things up. Just thought I'd show you this. If you watch the plastic collets video, I started on making a new drawbar bolt, and that's how it came up. That was machined in this collet, in the hex collet chuck in here. You can see it came up really well. It's bloody perfect. But anyway, go back and watch that if you didn't. So before I get on with this, I'm going to get in and change this. That's a better fit on the socket now too. It fits better on there. So I might be able to get into it with the impact wrench now. So I'll change that bolt and I'll come back to you. I'm starting to wonder if using the impact wrench on here is a good idea. I thought of something the other night. This pulley is only attached to the shaft by 3 grub screws, which there's nothing really stopping it from moving up and down on that shaft. And I just had the impact wrench on there and I noticed this pulley was moving up and down. So that's tight at the moment, so if I go to drop the tool out, see it pop up then? Tool's out. You see the pulley pull back down. But I'll have to keep an eye on that if I'm going to use the impact wrench on it. Anyway, back to setting this up. Alrighty, so I'll do the 2 long sides and then clean up this end here, this end here is the one that measures the measurement that counts the most. So I'll get these ones right first. Alright, it really doesn't matter, I didn't get all of that tiny little bit here in the corner as well, but all this here is getting cut off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Just get the burrs off here, flip it over. Alrighty, so that's those two sides cleaned up. I'll be back shortly. I'm going to set it up to mill this edge off and maybe clean this up a bit, and then drill the 2-hole, fly cut it and then drill 2 holes in here. Alright, so that's the 72mm I needed across there. So now I'll get this, I'll fly cut it, and then actually no, before I fly cut it, while I've still got all this drawn on here, no, I've got to do that before I go cutting anything out of the side. So I'll set it up, fly cut it. No, I might set up, drill the 2 holes first, then fly cut both sides, and then go and fit it up in the lathe and bore that hole in the centre here so I know exactly where centre is. Alrighty, so while you weren't looking, I got into it and I cleaned up the other end, opposite end, got it to length. I can only measure it with a measuring tape, it's close enough. So now we'll find the edges here and here and here and get those 2 holes drilled in there. Alrighty, so I'll get a couple of chamfers on those holes, top and bottom, and we'll go bolt it to the lathe and find that bloody centre. Alrighty, so that bolted up there okay, but I'm going to have to put it back in the lathe and just knock a bit off the bottom edge here because it's rubber on the top of these rails here. And also, it's got a 2-degree lean on it this way because this big plate in here was, I never dressed up with an angle grinder, so I'm going to have to put a bit of a 2-degree slope in this section where it bolts on to get it to square it up. But I won't bore you with that. I'll come back to you later after I've got all that done. Alrighty, so while I was milling that bit on the back side of there, oh god, I hate these bloody side milling splinters, they drive me nuts. While I was doing that, it suddenly occurred to me that I was getting a bit ahead of myself. I wanted to fly cut that before I drill that hole in there so that when I scribe some lines on here, they can stay there, they won't get machined off. So let's do this. I don't tend to get quite as nice a finish with the tool hanging out that far, but that'll do. I can live with that. Alrighty, so I'll finish deburring that chamfer these 2 holes here again. I'll go and see how well it fits up on the lathe now. Alrighty, so I didn't get it perfect. It's 89.35, not 90, but better than it was. I had to put a spacer in between this thing and the base of the cross slide because it's after I'd machined that bit out of it to put the slope back this way, it was hitting the cross slide. Couldn't move the cross slide. Anyway, so we'll get a spotting drill in there. We'll mark that up. I'll use just a pretty small one, so I get a small dot. A small point. So I'll move this camera because it's kind of in my way at the moment. That'll do me for the time being. What I want to do point of that in there. Square up to it. Mark it. So might put some glue on there too. Stands out a bit better. Alrighty, so this might be a bit hopeful, but that's the 54mm one I used when I was making the dial gauge hole. I didn't really want to cut then, so I don't know whether I want to cut now either. But we'll give it a go. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I did up the size of the hole in the centre to 50, but 50, 54, neither here nor there really. The neighbours will be loving that. If I keep that up, the neighbours will have my guts for garters. So I think I might put the 32mm or whatever it was that I used before through there, and this would seem to cut fairly well, and then finish it with the boring head. That is just way too noisy. So I've got a 40mm, I'll try that. See how that goes. It might be a whole lot quieter if I do it in the mill, so I think I'll take it out of here, and now I know where the centre is, do it in the mill. Well, that 40mm is just as blunt as the 54, I think, because it was just as bad in the mill here as it was in the lathe. So I got the 28 or whatever it is out again. Even that was fairly slow going, took me a while to chew my way through there. But anyway, everything's pretty friggin' hot now, so I'm going to let that cool down. It's nearly iced coffee o'clock. So I'll come back later and I'll get the boring head out and we'll bore it out to match this circle here. Alrighty, so I came out yesterday afternoon to get some of this done, but the heat defeated me. It was 36 degrees again out here late in the afternoon. So I decided I'd leave the last little bit for today. So I'll get in and do that. I did wind it out yesterday. I've been doing what I did the other week, and just a half a turn on here removes a millimetre of material each time. Actually, it doesn't remove a millimetre, it removes half a millimetre, increases the size by a millimetre. For some reason, I've ended up narrower here than here, and I don't know why. But when I finish cutting this hole, I'll lay that 3D printed one over it and have a look. For some reason, this hole's ended up way off centre. I don't know why. I got a feeling that when I was editing the one had it in the lathe, I saw it move at one stage or another, so I don't really know what's going on. But I've still got my line scribed in there, so that doesn't really matter. But so I only need a little bit out of there. I'll go a quarter of a turn. See what happens. Alrighty, so the next cab off the rank should be to cut these two slots in here, but I think I'd rather make the two pieces that go in there first so that I can machine the slots to fit them perfectly. So I think we'll do that as the next cab off the rank. So I might head over to the bench and have a look at what my options are there. At this point in the video, I'd like to thank my patrons. Their continued support is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to become a patron, there's a link down in the description. You can sign up there and drop me a couple of dollars every month. If you don't want to be a regular contributor, there's always buy me a coffee. Now, let's get back to the build. Alrighty, bloody dogs over the road are barking at thin air at the moment. There's nothing going on outside. Well, that's ended up bloody miles out. I don't know why or that is and how I arrived at that, but anyway, I should still have enough here. At least I hope I do. Alrighty, so originally I drew these up at 16mm wide because I thought I had a piece of 16mm or 5/8 square bar here, but I can't seem to find it. Now I've got this piece I cut off the side here. I can machine that down. And at one stage I was thinking about just making them out of brass, but I've got this bit of 1/2 by 1 inch. But I don't want to make them 1 inch wide, that's ridiculous. So I might make them out of this, it's a bit easy to machine, but I'll have to narrow it down to maybe say 20 millimeters, so it's a bit of a waste of material, but anyway. Now I wandered off down to, well actually before I go there, originally I was thinking if I make them out of brass, I'll machine a little round section on the end that can, you know, run on the workpiece. I kept thinking, it'll just wear out too fast. And I had seen bits of bronze down at the bolt shop before, so I went down there yesterday. I picked up what I assume is probably quite a bargain. That is a piece of 9/16 or 14mm round, and it's a good, I haven't measured it long, it's at least 500mm long I suppose. 400, just under 400mm long, and I most certainly didn't need a piece that long. You know, I was after a bit maybe, you know, that long, and even then I thought I'd probably never use it all, even to buy that, so not much chance I'll ever use all that up. But anyway, there's a price tag on here, you couldn't read what it says, it had faded. And they had a little jar there with just bits of brass in it, not bronze, brass. And there was a little piece of maybe 1/2 inch round, about that long, had 90 baht written on it, which is a bit overpriced for a bloody offcut. But anyway, I said to the boss, there's 2 women down there, one I deal with all the time, who's quite nice. Boss lady, the boss's wife, I think she is, she's not bad. I said to her, how much? And she looked at it and I said, well, you can't really read that. And she looked and she looked and she said, Haroi baht, so 500 baht. And I just went, well, I didn't really want to spend that much on it. I only need 2 bits like this long. But yeah, alright, I'll take it. On the way home I started thinking about it. That's got to be worth, I reckon, probably 1,500 baht or more as a piece of bronze. I don't know what type of bronze it is, I've got no idea. But that to me seems like a bit of a bargain. So we'll make up some little pieces to run the material out of that, and I think I'll just drill and tap a hole in the end and make them up with a thread on them, so that maybe put a couple of flats so I can nip it up with a spanner, so if they wear out I'll just make a couple more. But so that's where I think I'll go with that. Now because I've been crook all week, this week has been reasonably unproductive, because you know, I've only been spending a couple of hours a day out here because the heat knocks me around too much. It's 9:30 here, it's already 33 degrees, and I think that's about all I've got time for this week, because there's still quite a lot to do yet. I've got to cut all this out and then mill it all up and clean them up. I don't know whether to get the rotary table out and do all these corners, or just chop them off in the saw and then finish it off in the belt sander, which I'll probably end up doing because the rotary table's too much hassle, so I'll go that way. So if you've been enjoying this, how about smashing that like button and giving it a great big thumbs up, because you know it kind of helps me out. I was hoping to get this all done in one go, but obviously not going to. So come back next week and we'll see how it all turns out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.